Republicans and Democrats spent the week hammering Mitt Romney for his record at Bain Capital. Today, the Obama campaign got in on the action, and we'll have more on that coming up in the program. Now, I've said all week, Romney is going to have to come clean with the American people and talk about his record at Bain. Romney's campaign thinks this television ad is an adequate response.
This is a business Mitt Romney helped start, and this one, and this steel mill. Mitt Romney helped create and ran a company that invested in struggling businesses, grew new ones, and rebuilt old ones, creating thousands of jobs. Those are the facts.
All right, if Romney wants to talk about facts, we can talk about facts. Let's start with the facts surrounding this company, Steel Dynamics. Well, it was back in 1994, Bain put more than $18 million into the company to become the largest U.S. equity holder. 5 years later, Bain sold its stake for $104 million. They made a cool profit of more than $85 million. The Indiana company still employs more than 6,000 workers. Now, here are some facts that the Romney campaign is leaving out. According to the L.A. Times, Steel Dynamics also received generous tax breaks and other subsidies provided by the state of Indiana and the residents of DeKalb County. Well, the raw numbers are this. The state and the county ponied up $37 million in subsidies and grants for the project. County residents were hit with a new income tax to help pay for it all. Bain Capital made a profit on Steel Dynamics thanks to subsidies and tax breaks from the government. Meanwhile, Mitt Romney is going across the country saying the government does not create jobs.
Fundamentally, what happens in America that creates jobs is not government. It has its role, but by and large, it gets in the way of creating jobs.
Seems like Steel Dynamics created thousands of jobs after getting money from the government. The money also went to Mitt Romney's pockets. But Romney says the government and President Obama shouldn't be picking winners or losers.
Because the government's chosen their favorite. And so as a result of what he did, he not only wasted government money, he made it more difficult for entrepreneurs and innovators to come up with the new ideas in the future. This president doesn't understand how this economy works. It's time to get a president who does.
Bain Capital was picking a winner when it decided to build a steel mill in DeKalb County, Indiana, where taxpayers paid for a good chunk of it. Mitt Romney is constantly vilifying the President of the United States on the campaign trail, saying that President Obama doesn't understand the economy.
When he took office, the economy was in recession, and he made it worse, and he made it last longer.
I look at this president and realize that he just doesn't know what has to be done to get this country on track again.
And this president wakes up every morning, looks out across America, and is proud to announce it could be worse.
You know, I want to go back to something that the right-wing talkers continually brought up during the Clinton impeachment years. You know, back in the 90s when President Clinton was dealing with his issues. They said character counts. Really, that's what Limbaugh used to say all the time. Character counts. This is a character issue for Mitt Romney. He pretends to talk like a Tea Party conservative, but he's been really at the trough, hasn't he? Romney is nothing but a corporate welfare hog if you look at the facts. You mean to tell me that Romney didn't know about the tax breaks and the subsidies that Steel Dynamics was getting, that he just didn't know the semantics of the deal and the dichotomy of it all? Come on. How can a Tea Party ever support this guy? One of the reasons Mitt Romney got rich is because taxes and government programs helped his investments. And I think a lot of Americans are going to come to the conclusion that he's nothing but a phony. But what's going to happen in November? And we got a long slog before we get to November. There's going to be a lot of stories dealing with Bain Capital and just how Mitt Romney made his millions. What it's going to come down to is the American people are going to render judgment before Election Day. Do we accept any kind of ethics or morals in business, or is this just the way business is? That we can crap all over workers, we can just distort the facts on television all the time with campaign commercials to make people think that he was really out there creating jobs, but then again, we don't have any hard numbers about how many jobs he actually created. But we do know the people who are interviewed about losing their job, losing their pension, and seeing jobs shipped overseas. I hope the Obama administration jumps all over this because there is a real story to be told. We are at a crucial intersection in this country. Do we value workers? I can render personal judgment that I don't think Mitt Romney knows anything about workers in this country. He only knows about profit. He wasn't there to create jobs. He was there to create wealth. He comes from the financial sector. I'm joined by Robert Reich tonight, Secretary of Labor, now a professor at UC Berkeley and author of the book Aftershock. Great to have you with us tonight, Mr. Secretary. Appreciate your time. Hello. Is it accurate to say that Bain Capital accepted corporate welfare based on this story?
Well, of course, Bain Capital accepted corporate welfare. I mean, Bain Capital probably would not have made the investment in Steel Dynamics had it not been for that big wallop of corporate capital and corporate welfare that came from the state of Indiana. I mean, the state offered it in order to entice Bain Capital into making the investment that Bain Capital did. This is the most common and, in a sense, the worst, among the worst forms of corporate welfare because it doesn't create new jobs. I mean, if every state is competing against every other state for the same steel plant, basically it's taxpayers in one state competing against and vying against taxpayers in another state. This is money that went into Mitt Romney's pockets. Bain capitalism is not product capitalism, it's financial capitalism. It's moving money. It's getting as much money out of the public sector as possible.
Mr. Reich, doesn't this make him somewhat of an enemy to the Tea Party and their philosophy that companies would be getting taxpayer dollars? I mean, wouldn't this run up the deficit? Wouldn't this run up the debt? I mean, what's this all about?
Well, if there were some logic to Tea Party ideology and some consistency, yes, of course. I mean, Mitt Romney, even when he was governor of Massachusetts, he was doing exactly the same thing. He was using state tax dollars to try to lure companies from other states into Massachusetts. I mean, whether he was the head of Bain Capital and pocketing the corporate welfare or governor of Massachusetts and doling out taxpayer corporate welfare, it's the same corporate welfare, and it basically has very little to do with producing real products and services.
What is the economic danger of a Romney presidency? I mean, if this is where he came from, you can only imagine about what kind of laws he would be in favor of having passed by his fellows in the House or the Senate. I mean, he would obviously have some real corporate friends at the front door saying, hey, do this, do this. How dangerous would that be? How much further could this take us in destruction of the middle class?
Well, it takes us deep into financial capitalism, Ed. And what we have really got to understand, and the Republicans, I never thought I'd hear it from Newt Gingrich and Perry and other Republicans. What the Republicans are beginning to articulate is what a lot of Democrats have said for all along. Well, that is, financial capitalism isn't real capitalism. Yeah. It doesn't create new jobs. It doesn't put people to work. It actually ends up reducing the number of jobs. It displaces people. It puts risks on average working people. It lowers wages. I mean, financial capitalism is what we've had in this country for the last 2 or 3 decades, and it's all centered on Wall Street. It's not about making good jobs with good wages and making things.
And Mr. Reich, Romney's response, that ad that we played just a moment ago, is that a good response? Is he going to be able to get this off to the side of the road, or is this going to dog him throughout the entire campaign?
Well, I think we're going to find out more and more about Bain capitalism, Ed. And my prediction is that where Bain capitalism ultimately leads, whether you want to call it leverage buyouts or you call it private equity management or whatever you want to call it, where it leads is to the heart of finance, to the heart of Wall Street, to the heart of what's happened to the American economy, which is an economy that no longer produces things, but produces money and the movement of money and financial transactions that really benefit just a very few people who are clustered around the financial industry. I mean, this is what we're going to learn, and there is a very important distinction between Bain capitalism, that is financial capitalism, and real capitalism.
It ought to be a softball for the Obama campaign. Robert Reich, always a pleasure. Great to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much.